Welcome to Being Authentic Rules, aka The Bar, where we're becoming like fine wine, one message at a time. And I'm your host and bartender, The Rule Breaker. Serving up straight truth, no chaser. So, grab your goggles and a drink. Because around here we're about to go deep. In this hour, it's difficult to know who to trust and what to trust. We only really have two ways that I can think of right now that we can try to figure it out. And that is the spirit of discernment and to test the spirit. Now, I know they sound like one and the same thing, but when you look a little deeper, there is a difference. I can remember when I was going through, I'll call it my days of the narcissist. When I met my narcissist, I was in a very vulnerable state, to say the least. And their worldly discernment was able to pick up on that. Not trying to give them unnecessary credit, but it's like they can sense it. And he, sure enough, tested the waters to see if his prediction was correct. And in that day and time, I was as far away from God as you can get. I did not know him like I should, as deep of a relationship as I have with him now. I had strayed away from his teachings quite a bit. In fact, I can't say that I really knew much at all. Remember, I told you guys I had studied with different religions for years and still didn't know much of anything. I knew basics, but that was it. Nothing supernatural, like we're about to talk about today. In 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 19 through 20, God says, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, the intelligence of the intelligent. I will frustrate. Where is the wise person? Where is the teacher of the law? Where is the philosopher of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? And this is really the stage that I was in when I met my narcissist. I was in search of the truth. I was looking for a person here on earth who had it, who knew it, who could share it. And I really was running into brick walls. But from these verses, we learn that discernment is merely knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. It's not some sort of superpower until it is given by God. See, there is a worldly discernment and there is a heavenly discernment, spiritual discernment, and that only comes from God. See, I was considered an intelligent person. If you ask any of my classmates, they will tell you, yeah, she was pretty smart in school. I graduated with honors. I was like 11th in a class of 250 something, 60 something kids. I was pretty smart. Not only did I graduate from high school, but I also graduated from college. So I wasn't no dummy. I wasn't just dumb as a rock. But I still didn't know enough. I still felt like I didn't know anything. And come to find out, I didn't. Even after studying the Bible for years, guys, I did not completely get it. I didn't understand. I couldn't put things together. I couldn't put the puzzle pieces together. I didn't have a clue. And that's pretty much what these verses are saying. They're telling us that in our humanly, earthly wisdom, We really don't know anything. So we can't rely on that type of discernment to prevent us from making spiritual mistakes. Okay? There's a difference between earthly mistakes and spiritual mistakes. And we really can't rely on earthly discernment to help us spiritually. It's going to take a wisdom that only comes from God to avoid many of the traps set by the enemy. And even then, we must listen to the Spirit. That's that free will, that God gives all of us, instead of listening to our flesh. We'll talk more about this at another time, but today we're going to focus on the other way to avoid traps of the enemy, and that is to test the Spirit. For this, we'll examine Exodus chapter 7 and 8. But before we do, I'd like to take a minute to testify, if I can. I created a video on November the 16th, 2025. And that video was called John chapter 14, verse 12, meaning how Jesus's greater works empower spiritual miracles today. Now, I'll put a link in the description box to this particular video. And the time that you need to fast forward to is around 9 minutes into the video. But you're welcome to look at the entire video because it will give you the big picture. In this video, I talk about miracles, signs, and wonders, and how the miracles of Jesus's day and age were more in your face. He made the blind see and the lame walk and etc. But today we have to look for miracles, signs, and wonders with our spiritual eyes. And I remember telling you guys that one of the miracles that we can see today that's happening is to be able to reach nations. We have Wi-Fi today, so where Jesus had to talk to the multitude, we can now reach individual people who are searching for the truth because of the algorithm and because of Wi-Fi, the internet. And so when Jesus said, "You will do greater works than these, signs and wonders," these are the works that he was talking about, the greater works. Now, y'all, I go directly to the scriptures that I'm being led to go to. That particular day when I made that video, not one time was I led to the scripture Mark chapter 6, verse 2, 3, 2. I think it's verse 2. It's verse 2. But 2 days ago, I came upon that scripture, Mark chapter 6, verse 2, December the 1st, 2025. And that, I'm going to show you a screenshot if I can do it. I got to figure out how to do it, but I'm going to show you a screenshot of where I bookmarked it inside of my Bible study. This is yet just another way that God speaks to me. Another form of proof, I guess you can say, that I'm not causing these things to happen by what I say. I see it in the spirit before it happens. And not only is it proving it to you all, it's proving it to me. I can't make it up, y'all. That particular scripture says, "And on the Sabbath he began to teach in the synagogue, and many who heard him were astonished, saying, 'Where did this man get these things? What is the wisdom given to him? How are such mighty works done by his hands?'" They are talking about Jesus right here. And they're wondering, how is he able to know so much? How is he able to do so much? And it's all by the power of God. And speaking of power of God, God gives his people powers such as this. miracles, signs, and wonders. And you can test the spirit to see if it's true. Just like with me, if you really want to see if I'm telling you the truth, go back and take a look at that video. And you then ask yourself, number one, could it be that I only put out what I took into my mind at some other point in time, like some other point in my studying years ago? Or number two, did I make it happen through manifestation? Or number three, did something happen in the spirit first before it came into my reality? Which brings me to today's example. Moses and Aaron's showdown with the magicians. See, the enemy is nothing but a copycat, y'all. He tries to duplicate God at every turn. And I know how he feels. Y'all remember that jingle? Anything you can do, I can do better. And then it goes, no, you can't. Yes, I can. No, you can't. Yes, I can. That's what this reminds me of. Anyway, in the book of Exodus, chapter 7, we're going to first take a look at verse 8 through 12. These are the miracles, by the way, that were duplicated by Satan. Everything that God was doing through Moses and Aaron, Satan tried to duplicate it. So this is where Moses and Aaron throws their staff down. Well, Aaron throws the staff down before Pharaoh, and it becomes the serpent. And then Pharaoh has his magicians to do the same thing, but then Aaron's staff swallows their staff, swallows their snakes. And then they tried it again. Number 2, the first plague. Moses turned the Nile River into blood. And then the magicians used the secret arts to copy the miracle. That's in Exodus chapter 7, y'all, verses 14 through 22. And then the third one is the second plague. Aaron causes frogs to come upon the land. That's Exodus chapter 8, verses 1 through 4. And then the magicians also cause frogs to come. That's in Exodus 8, verses 5 through 7. The copycatting ceases. The magicians are no longer able to duplicate the Lord's miracles. But the miracles still continue. That's in Exodus chapter 9, verses 10 through 11. Like the example of the boils in those verses. So, their power was pretty amazing, but it had limits. And God's power has no limits. So what did we learn today? We learned, number 1, you can be intelligent and still not know anything. Or should I say, what you need to know. Number 2, discernment is a superpower only when it's given by God. Any other intelligence is just human intelligence. And number 3, discernment and testing the spirit are 2 of the main ways that we as Christians use to avoid the traps set by the enemy. And number 4, even then, when we test the spirit, it may take time for us to be sure of what we see. Well, that's all I have for today. I hope this helps someone, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I know I will. Don't you be no ghost. Truth seekers, barkeepers, let's continue to do just that. Until next time, I love you with the love of Christ. Rule breaker, out.